A method can have a return value. So imagine for a moment that we want to calculate a number. So we can look at this example, increase by 10. So we pass a number as an argument to this method called increase by 10, and we want to return a number that is 10 more than the number we passed in. So to call this, we would call puts, just so that we can see the result, increase by 10 and pass it the number 20. Then the return function inside our method is going to return the value of number plus 10. When I run this method in IRB, say with the argument 50, of course the return value will be 10 more than that, it's 60. Running it with minus 75 will be minus 65. Note in this case, return is optional. In fact, unlike other programming languages, return isn't needed in Ruby in most cases. Whatever is last in the method will actually get returned. So if we were to put puts in front of a call to increase by 10, it'll simply print out the result. So let's try to understand what's happening with return values in Ruby. What's going to be the result of this method? I'll let you study that for a moment. Calling my method with 20 and 10 as the arguments will result in 30. This is because val1 is less than 100, so this condition will be true. Consequently, the return statement will execute here and sum val1 and val2. In the case that val1 is more than or equal to 100, let's say 200, we get 190. That's because this first condition here, if val less than 100, will not return true, and so the return statement never gets executed. Instead, the method will simply return the last statement, which in this case is val1 minus val2, or 200 minus 10, which is 190. What about in this case? In the second example, when we call my method with the first argument being larger than the second, we get minus 1. This is because of the condition here. If val1 more than val2, that is, the first argument is bigger than the second argument, then we get minus 1. Otherwise, if that first condition is not true, we'll get 1. Let's try that. My method 10 and 50 this time, of course we'll get 1 because 50 is more than 10. In the last lesson we learned about variables and the rules that go along with naming them. Methods have naming rules as well, and for the most part they're very much the same as variables, but there's a few differences. So unlike a variable, a method can start with a capital, but I don't recommend it. Methods can actually end with an exclamation, sometimes called a bang, or a question mark. So these are valid method names as well. Exists question mark, and that takes an argument of value, or we can have a method called destroy bang. I love the destroy bang, it makes it sound important, and in actual fact that has a really important role in Ruby. Quite often bang is used to indicate that a method is going to have some destructive purpose or something that we need to be really careful about. Ruby also defines a set of special method names. We're not going to cover these in too much detail now, but just remember, every time you're accessing a particular function or behavior in Ruby, it's almost always going to be a method. Let's practice our understanding of methods with an exercise. I'd like you to create several methods to do the following. The first, simply add two numbers together. Then, one to multiply three numbers. The next, return a string with an interpolated value, e.g. the temperature outside is value. You can do whatever you like in this case. And then finally, return a description of the temperature provided, e.g. it's hot. So in this case, you would take a temperature value, say as an integer, and then return a string description of that temperature depending on its value.